I'm Edie Lush, and I'm here at the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos. Absolutely delighted to be joined by Martin Wolf, economics columnist for the Financial Times.
Pleasure to be here.
It's been a pretty amazing time here in Switzerland. We've seen the move by the Swiss National Bank last week, an enormous amount of discussion about quantitative easing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I suppose it's really not very surprising that the Swiss decided to dump the peg. They've been floating for a very long time, and they were obviously very concerned by what the ECB was going to do with quantitative easing. But the moment they did it, it was a surprise. It couldn't be anything else. If they told everybody it was going to happen, the whole world would have bought Swiss francs. Right. So it was a shock, and it remains a shock, and we'll see what happens in Switzerland. Meanwhile, just as they expected, and this has been well telegraphed, the ECB announced its QE program, but it's a substantially more ambitious and substantially more open-ended commitment than we expected. It's a very remarkable commitment and possibly a game changer in terms of monetary policy in the Eurozone.
So I'd like you to tell me a little bit more about that, because there's been a huge amount of discussion over the past months about whether quantitative easing has gone far enough. What do you think the ECB's move means?
Well, I think they had to do it. I've supported it. It's incredibly controversial in the Eurozone. The Germans and other Northern European countries absolutely hate it, and that makes it more difficult to know how well it'll work because the politics affect it. But I think they had to do it because it's very, very clear that the euro is moving towards deflation. And we're moving steadily towards falling prices, and it's their mandate. They have absolutely committed to achieving inflation of less than 2%, but close to it, and they're not doing so. So they had to do it. The really big question is, will it work? I think there is a chance, very far from certain, that given everything else that is going on in the Eurozone, it will generate a bit of a recovery, and maybe, just maybe, inflation will over the next year or to begin to stabilize. And they're now committed to keep on going until it does. So that gives you some confidence.
What's the worst case scenario? What if it doesn't work?
Well, the worst case scenario is that it doesn't work. The debt problems of peripheral countries get worse. Governments emerge, as we might well see in Greece very, very soon, committed to default, rewriting the debt. There's a tremendous row between the country and Brussels, the German government, and the Eurozone breaks up. And so the worst case is a complete calamity.
Is that what keeps you up at night?
No, I mean, I'm an outsider whose job is to write about this, and in some strange way, of course, it's a tremendous story. So I don't worry about it in the sense that I can't sleep. But it is true that when I think about the implications, if that were to happen, if the Eurozone were to break up, that would sort of put an end to the long 60-year process of ever greater integration. It would be the end of something, and nobody knows quite what would follow.
Finally, just a thought about the Greek elections.
Well, this is obviously part of this story. It depends very much on who wins, who's going to be the next prime minister. It looks still as though it's likely to be Tsipras. And then there are going to be some really tough negotiations. Now, I have a lot of sympathy for the Greek position. I personally believe there should be a debt reduction, but the governments have firmly said that they won't have it. So we're going to have some very, very difficult negotiations, and it's possible it could lead to a forced Greek exit, and then we'll see what happens.
Martin, thank you so much for coming by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and I'm Edie Lush.